Alrighty, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking all about rest, okay? And so I know if you're listening to this, you are a hardworking woman who probably still gets irritated every single time you see your husband or a friend or whomever just like kind of laying around and lounging, right? And I'm going to stick with the husband example just because it's like easy for everybody to really understand. With this episode, I really want you to know ahead of time, like, it's actually not about him. It's not about the rest. It's not about like the couch. It's not about any of that stuff. Okay. It really goes so much deeper than what you probably expect. All right. So again, let me paint the picture because I know that you feel like this. I know I have felt like this. And it's something that we really have to be super intentional with if we want to move past it. Okay. But also, it's a really great way for us to know what we still need to work on. So let's not make it a negative thing. Let's just learn from it. All right. So again, let me paint the picture. It's like 5:30 at night. You have been going and going and going since the sun came up this morning. You have answered emails. You have made breakfast. You have made everybody a beautiful lunch. You have chicken thawing in the sink. There's a load of laundry that needs to be folded that's probably been sitting in the dryer for a while. And you've had a full day with the kids and also business stuff too. Okay. And so then your husband walks in from work. And what does he do? He says hello, and then he goes and he either lays down on the couch or he lays down on the bed just for like 10 minutes. That's all that he wants. Like 10 minutes before he helps with dinner or the kids or anything like that. But in that 10 minutes, your blood is like boiling. You have this anger that's rising up inside of you. Okay. And depending on the type of person that you are, you may or may not say anything. Maybe you just start like slamming the cabinet doors, or you start doing the dishes a little bit louder, or big sighs or whatever so that he can hear it. Or maybe you do end up saying something like sharp or mean and you kind of regret it. But then 20 minutes later, it's like you feel really terrible about it. Okay. The part that makes this so confusing is that your brain logically knows that it makes no sense that you are this upset about your husband resting. Like, he worked all day too. He has a hard job. Like, he is also carrying a lot. And 10 minutes is like really nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? And like, you know that if you called one of your friends or even talked to me if I'm your coach, and like you were like, I'm so angry with this, what we would probably say is like, let the man rest, right? And logically you get it, but your body's like, no, I cannot let him rest. It's too annoying, right? And so your body does not care what your brain knows. Okay, so this is the foundation of every single thing that I teach, where your brain and your body can believe two totally different things at the same time. Your brain will say like, he deserves rest, but then your body is like, no, visceral reaction, danger, like your body starts to maybe like give you that reaction. Your face starts to get red. You start to like not take deep breaths, things like that. And this is literally because your brain runs about 5% of the show. Your body runs about 95% of the show. Okay. And if you're like, Bridget, what does that even mean? I have some older podcast episodes that you can listen to. But essentially your body, because you have a nervous system that's always scanning for threats, your body is going to run about 95% of the show in your life. Okay. And it's encouraging you to do and say and be in certain ways in order to keep you safe, even if your brain says like, I don't need this. Okay. And so what is happening is that you're not trying to be a mean wife or anything like that. Again, it's just your nervous system reacting faster than your thinking brain can catch up with it. Remember, the body is always going to speak very clearly, but it's always going to speak first, always. Okay. And again, we're sticking with the husband example because it's very relatable, but you can do this with anybody or even any emotion or thing. Okay. So this could be about a client. This could be about people being late. This could be about whatever. It truly doesn't matter. It's all the same idea, that we're just sticking with this one because it's simple. So with this in mind, your body is trying to tell you something. Okay. Again, this is a symptom, right? Like that flash of rage or the heat rising to your cheeks, whatever it is. It's your body's way of trying to say something that actually goes so much deeper than you are even probably thinking right now. Right? So you never want to ask the question like, why am I like this? Why am I so crazy? Okay. What you want to ask instead is you want to get curious. And this is why having a coach like me really helps, because coming at this from a very neutral perspective, this is just information. It's not anything that we need to judge ourselves on. And so instead of like condemning ourselves, essentially, yes, we want to always improve, but we want to be curious with ourselves. Like, what is actually my body remembering right now, right? What is my body trying to protect me from? And remember, your body is not logical. It does not make any sense half the time, which is why it's so, so important that you have somebody on the outside really helping you walk through this, because otherwise you're going to be like, I'm a crazy person. And you're not crazy, I promise. All right. And so the reason you're not crazy is because what happened, we're going to go back, way back, somewhere along the line, you learned something. Okay. You learned this rule that your body has then taken on and it's like running with it. And so with this specific example with your husband and like, or being annoyed with other people who can rest, or being annoyed with yourself of why you can't rest, whatever's going through your mind right now, it probably what you learned is something like, if I stop working, I get left behind. If I'm not useful, like I'm not loved, whatever it is. Those are just a couple examples. And what's so interesting is that nobody sat you down and like told you that, but you learned it, or you at least perceived that in the way that children learn everything, right? And people learn everything, which is through experience and over again until like that became what you really believe. And so this can show up in like, even if your parents were the most amazing people and or whoever raised you, it's not about them. It's about how you perceived it as a child. And whenever you are an immature child, but if especially this happened before the ages of like 7 to 10ish years old, your nervous system was still learning. And so therefore it was still learning like what is good, what is not good, what's going to keep me safe, what's going to get people to like me, because we are made to live in community. So therefore we want to be part of the community. Okay. And so like an example of this is like maybe your mom only smiled at you whenever you were helping. So like you cleared the table without being asked and she smiled at you, right? Or, and then actually, whenever you maybe sat down and read a book or played, she was sort of like distant and annoyed. That's just your perception of things. Maybe she actually wasn't, but that's how you perceived it as a child. So you learned helping gets me love, resting gets me ignored, or something along those lines. Okay. Another example is like maybe your home was really chaotic and you were the one who was responsible for sort of holding it all together, where you took that upon yourself. So maybe you're like 9 or 10 years old, making sure that your little brother had lunch, or that you're trying to stay 12 steps ahead of whatever you perceive is going to happen in the next day because you want to make sure that you can keep the peace, right? Like rest was not an option for you because if you stopped, things didn't go well in your family and people got hurt. Okay. Another example is like maybe somebody actually left. So I had a client this happened to where it's like her parents got divorced and her dad loved her so much, but her dad also moved away. And so she took that as my dad like left me. So therefore I must not be lovable. Okay. And then from there too, in this specific example, because the parents divorced, the mother went through this time where she was like there in body, but like her spirit was like gone because she just went through so much. Right. And so again, we're not placing blame or anything like that, but it's important to know that these things happened. And when you're little, like without even knowing, you were deciding like, I have to be good. I have to be helpful. I have to be needed so that nobody ever leaves me again. Okay. And these couple of examples are just one type of wound that I teach inside my signature framework. And so this one specifically is the abandonment wound. This is one of the deepest wounds that so many women carry. And your nervous system, as beautiful and intelligent as it is, essentially coded into your body that work means safety and rest means abandonment. Okay. And I'm going to repeat that again. Work means safety, rest means abandonment. That's not actually what it, like logically, it doesn't make sense, but that's how you perceive things. Okay. And so I can get even more into the weeds with this, where maybe your parents they didn't really know how to show you that they loved you or tell you that they loved you. So instead they showered you with gifts. And then for a little kid, it's like, this is great. I get a bunch of gifts whenever I'm good. And like, this is the way my parents show me that I'm loved. The problem with that, though, is that as a child, we need our attachment to be with our parents and we need to be able to feel safe being with them or with whomever is our caregiver. And if your parents were not able to reciprocate and to receive your big feelings and your big emotions as a child, you probably learned that these big feelings and big emotions were not safe to be expressed. Being vulnerable was not safe, right? And resting is one of the biggest ways that you can be vulnerable. Literally from a physiological, biological perspective, where think of a cat. When a cat's laying down, they usually sleep with their belly up, and they do that for some different types of reasons, but really it leads them to a vulnerable place where they're sleeping, right? And so somebody could come and pounce on their stomach, and yes, they can like wrap their claws around them and stuff, but it's a very vulnerable place. Same thing with a horse. When a horse lays down, they're very vulnerable because yes, they can get up pretty quickly, but is it going to be quick enough, right? Same thing with us. Like rest could potentially mean danger. Okay. And so I say this because your body's just trying to protect you, and it has done a really good job. However, it needs to know now it can just chill, right? No pun intended. And so the reason that you get so upset whenever your husband rests? So we're bringing it back to your husband right now. When he lays down on the couch, your body doesn't see like a tired man. Your body sees this old picture that's running through your mind. It's like encoded into your brain. And it sees you alone carrying everything, having to do everything, and nobody's coming to help you. Nobody's noticing how heavy it all is. Again, I'm going to repeat that last one because that's huge. Nobody is noticing how heavy it all is. That's what you believe, okay? And so the rage, like that's not actually about him, right? And this is where we really want to get to the root of it, because so many people could just say like, yeah, you need to talk to your husband, which is a great thing to do. Yes, you obviously should talk to your husband. But we don't just do surface level healing here. We go really to the root of it. And so that rage, yeah, it's not about him. That's about you screaming like, don't leave me alone with all of this. Because as a child, you were left alone with all of this, whether that be like the actual load of doing things or whether that means the emotional load of carrying it all. And it never was safe enough, or if it was safe and you did express it, but it wasn't well received, you're going to say, this is not safe to express it again, right? So that, again, we're sticking with the abandonment wound here, but there's 6 others that it could potentially be. The abandonment wound will scream so much louder than any sort of cognitive thought, any logical thought that you have. You cannot outthink your way out of this. You cannot out-discipline your way out of it, because it does not live in your thoughts. It lives in your body. And his rest isn't just annoying to you. It feels threatening to you, because deep down, your body believes that if you ever were able to rest like that, then you would somehow lose everything. Love, safety. And safety means a bunch of different things. This can be money. This can be material goods, whatever it is. Whatever's going to keep you, like your current lifestyle, essentially healthy, your belonging, right? And so whenever your husband rests without guilt, without earning it, your body says he's doing something dangerous and he's breaking a rule that kept you alive, okay? So you're not actually mad that he's resting. What you're actually doing is, without even realizing it, you're grieving that you cannot rest. But you can't just grieve that you cannot rest. You have to heal why that grief is there in the first place, okay? Let me just really quick define what rest is. So rest can literally be like laying down, taking a nap, chilling out. It can also just be reading a book. It can be going outside and playing soccer if that's what lights you up. It can be, like for me, it's riding one of my horses because that gives me energy. Rest doesn't necessarily have to be sleep or laying down. Rest can just be not being quote unquote like productive. Okay. That's what rest is. And so let's go a little bit deeper into this, because I really want to add the feminine layer, because this is so important that we do not just think about our brain, but we also think about our physiology as well. Okay. And so rest is a receiving posture. Okay. So like, let's think about what resting actually looks like. Again, you're not really producing necessarily in our modern sense of the word producing, right? You're letting yourself be held by something other than your own effort. So even if it is you playing soccer, like, yes, you're expending energy, but you're doing it because it's not going to be productive. Now, if you're like, we just finished World Cup. I don't know if anybody watches. I do not, but it's been all over the place. And so if you've been watching, like if you are a professional soccer player, you're probably not going to think playing soccer is restful. But I had a client, she was like, I love playing soccer. Like it brings me so much joy and I feel so much like lighter afterwards. So for her, that is a form of rest. Okay. So yes, rest can literally mean like laying down. It can also just mean doing something that lights you up, right? And with this in mind, rest is open. Rest is vulnerable. Rest is soft because it's not producing anything, right? And what's so important is that receiving is at the heart of the feminine, right? So if we look at Our Lady's greatest moments, it wasn't because she accomplished anything or she did anything, right? Literally right at the beginning, whenever she's first introduced in the Bible, she says, let it be done to me according to thy word, right? That is, it's not being passive, but what it is, it's being open. She essentially opened herself and allowed God to do what only God can do, okay? And so this is where it's so beautiful. But if your wound that you have, we all have these, again, there's 7 that I mainly teach and then 2 different forms of attachment, has taught you that being like soft and vulnerable is how you get hurt, then being open is going to feel like you can't do it, right? Receiving is not going to feel holy or safe or good. It's going to feel dangerous. And so what so many women nowadays do is that you like put on your armor, and what that looks like in today's culture is like you produce, you perform, like you stay in motion, because this part's key. Motion feels like control. And control feels like safety. Control feels like safety, but it's actually not. And so whenever you're looking at your husband resting on the couch, like doing the thing that your body like won't let you do, you hate it not because necessarily he's doing anything. And again, this is assuming that like you have an amazing husband who's such a hard worker and such a good provider, right? That's the mindset that we're going in. You hate it because your body won't allow you to actually experience it. Now, again, I am going to be a self-proclaimed Martha. So Martha and Mary, I am a Martha. I'm really trying to be a Mary, but right now I am probably more Martha than Mary, unfortunately. And I'm going to guess you are too. So Martha is like banging pots in the kitchen, like wondering why Mary's just sitting at the feet of Jesus, right? And what's so interesting is like whenever you read, I forget which verse it is, but when you read the verse, it's like Jesus is not scolding Mary for resting. He actually just goes up to Martha and is like, you need to chill out. He essentially says like, you worry about too much, right? So he wasn't saying like, he wasn't rejecting her work. He wasn't saying like, what you're doing in the kitchen is bad. He was just saying like, you can come and sit down too, right? And so again, if you are a Martha and you're the one like in the kitchen banging the pots, like Jesus is asking you to just come and sit with him. Now, this is not to say that like you can't go back in the kitchen and get stuff done, because stuff does need to get done. But it's saying that it's okay to take time to go and sit with Jesus, right? And so moving forward, again, whenever you get so frustrated by somebody being able to rest, it does not just stick in that one same space, okay? Because that same wound, again, there's 7 of them, whichever one is being highlighted right now for you, the same wound that makes you feel that rage and that anger whenever your husband sits down, and is the same reason why you cannot sit through a whole movie without feeling like you need to do work on your laptop or scroll through your phone or fold laundry. Okay. It's why you feel guilty about laying by the pool on vacation and you're not doing something quote unquote productive. It's why you really struggle with delegating at work without then redoing everything else yourself, right? And this is also why, and I've done many episodes on this, why whenever you receive compliments, it makes you like really super uncomfortable. Okay. It's even in your prayer life. Like if you're being honest with yourself, does prayer feel like one more thing that you have to do or perform? Like, do you feel like God is more pleased with you on the days that like you were able to check off, like, oh, I said the rosary, I did the litany, I did the Bible verse, I did the journaling, whatever, right? Like, no, he's not. But that's so hard for us to understand whenever the wound is running the show, okay? Because that's still your body believing that even God's love has to be earned. And it's a very complicated thing. We can't get into it in a podcast episode, but essentially, whenever I work with my one-on-one clients, we really go through, it's like your parental relationships are a direct correlation with God and how you perceive God's love, right? And so if you maybe perceive that your parents want you to act a certain way or be a certain way, or your love is conditional, whatever it is for you, you're going to literally project that upon God, right? Because unhealed wounds distort identity, and believing that you are lovable by God is a distorted identity. Or believing that you are not lovable by God, is a distorted identity. And that's what keeps your body in survival mode. So this is why, and I know I've said this over and over and over again, this is why nervous system regulation work is great and beautiful and amazing, but it does not do anything until you actually heal the wounds underneath. Okay? Because regulation without healing is self-management, right? Breathing exercises, journaling, silent walks, they're all really good tools. And like, yes, I use them all. And I really encourage my clients to as well. I have a daily 5 that I encourage them to do. But tools are going to calm the alarm system. They're not going to heal the wound that keeps setting the alarms off, right? And so if that root is still there setting off the alarm all the time, yes, you can just keep like doing the regulatory practices, but you're going to spend your entire life managing it instead of actually healing it and letting it go. Okay. And so, yes, most coaches will help you, like, will give you management strategies and whatnot, but all that's doing is helping you to perform better, which actually exacerbates the problem even more, right? Because we need to learn that we don't have to perform. We need to learn that we don't have to optimize these different survival patterns. All we have to learn is that God wants to restore us as his beloved daughter, not because we do anything or whatever, but only because he loves us. Not because of anything we do, not because of anything we say or what we look like or anything like that, but simply because he is the one who loves us, right? And so we don't have to earn that. Just like if you look at your kids, if you have kids, you know that they don't have to earn your love. You just love them because they're yours. Even whenever they're being really annoying or loud or whatever they're doing, like you still love them, because they're yours. Same thing with God and you. But your body has learned that love has to be earned. And you logically might say, like, God, I know this, I don't need to earn your love. And God wants to teach you through allowing these wounds and also healing these wounds, that your brain and your body, that love is given. Again, not because of anything you've done, not because of anything you will do, but just because of whose you are. Okay. And so let's just wrap all this up. The next time that your husband lays down, or whatever the situation is, and you feel like the heat rising to your cheeks, and you start to get super annoyed, I want you to do something. I want you to try something. I want you to not shame yourself. Okay. I want you to not slam the cabinets. I want you to not immediately walk in the room and say, what are you doing? I want you to just pause and just get curious. Like, ask yourself, what is your body remembering right now? And if anything comes up, amazing. If it doesn't, what that means is that you are likely in a state where you cannot be vulnerable even with yourself. And that is a learned behavior, literally from your childhood. Okay. And that's where you need somebody to help you out. So whenever you ask yourself that question, what's my body remembering right now? If an answer comes up, tell Jesus, right? Even if the answer is like, I'm afraid that if I stop, like, I'll be alone. It has nothing to do with your husband. But get curious with the answer until it has nothing to do with whomever it is that you're thinking about, because it really doesn't. It's sort of like that idea of, like, you can only be triggered by something that is still something that you're working on, right? So, like, if somebody came up to you and said something, if you no longer found that thing triggering, then, like, you probably are so rooted in your own identity that you're like, you're allowed to believe that, but I believe this, and that's fine, right? But if you are still triggered by something, then instead of getting mad and angry, get curious. Like, why am I still triggered by this thing, right? Because I should be able to hold his thoughts, but also acknowledge my own feelings and move forward from them, okay? And just get curious. That's all it is. Remember, everything is neutral. We're just getting curious. And what I love about this, though, is that every single opportunity like this that God gives us is an opportunity for us to step closer to heaven or step further away. But ideally step closer to heaven. And what's so important that you know is that the evil one can read your imagination. So right away, he's saying, like, Bridget, your husband's doing this thing, like, whatever it is. And I can either choose to believe that, or I can choose to get curious and say, like, no, what's actually happening, right? And it's so easy to just believe it. It's so easy. It's not easy to train your brain to get curious. So this is why it can really be helpful to get some support with this, okay? But again, every single opportunity that you are given like this is an opportunity as a step closer to heaven, a step closer to the woman that God created you to be. Okay. And so again, right now, if you are a successful, busy woman who really struggles with resting, if resting makes you mad, if other people resting makes you mad, get curious. Okay. And so if this episode really helped you out, I'd love for you to share it with your friend, because I know that there's a friend of yours who is banging pots in her own kitchen whenever her husband walks in the door and he goes and lays down. Okay. And so if you are ready to stop managing the wound and to actually heal it at the root, what I want you to do is go to the show notes and go ahead and join the free Telegram group, or grab the free training, the free audio training. It's going to change your life. Both of them will. Definitely grab both. They're both free. Okay. And so until next time, just remember that you do not have to earn what God's already given it to you. You just have to accept it. We'll talk more about it later. All right. See you next time.